Welcome to Lesson 10, the moment your terminal habit turns into a real superpower. Up to now, you've been typing commands one by one, but today we're going to start saving them into files and letting the computer do the repeating for you. That's all a bash script really is. The commands you already know, parked in a file with a special line on top, ready to run on demand. By the end of this lesson, you'll have written a little morning script that updates your system, checks your disks, and basically earns you that first cup of coffee. So here's the map for the next few minutes. First, you'll learn how to turn any plain text file into a runnable program with just a shebang line and chmod plaques. 2 tiny steps, that's the whole trick. Then we'll make those scripts dynamic by feeding them variables and arguments, so the same script can do different things. After that, branching and looping, if-then phi for decisions, for and while for repetition, which honestly cover about 95% of everything you'll ever need. And finally, you'll glue it all together into a real morning system check script. Before we write anything, let's get the mental model straight. A script is just a file with a hat, and that hat is the shebang line, #bin/bash, sitting at the very top. It tells Linux which interpreter to hand the file to. Below that, you write the same commands you've been typing all along, ls, mkdir, ping, whatever, line by line. Then you run chmod plus x once to flip the executable bit. And from that moment on, ./hello.sh just runs. Shebang commands permission. That's the whole recipe. Now let's give our scripts a memory. You make a variable by writing name equals value. And watch out, no spaces around that equals sign, or bash will misread it. To pull the value back out, you put a $sign in front like $name, or the safer curly brace form, $curly name curly. And when you want input from outside, bash hands you the command line arguments for free. $1 is the first word after your script, $@ is all of them, and $# tells you how many. With variables in hand, the next step is teaching your script to make decisions. The shape is simple. If some condition is true, then do this, else do that, and close it off with phi. That's just if spelled backwards. The brackets hold the test, and the flags inside do the actual checking. -if asks, does this file exist? -d checks for a directory. -g means greater than or equal for numbers. It looks wordy, but that's the point. Come back in a year and you'll still read it like English. Once your script can decide, the next superpower is repeating itself. Use for when you have a list, names, files matching star.log, or a range like 1 through 10, and bash will walk through each item for you. Use while when you don't know how many rounds you need, only a condition. Count down until n hits 0, or keep reading a file line by line until it runs out. Same do and done bookends, 2 different questions. How many things versus how long until I stop? Once you start repeating the same few lines, it's time to wrap them in a function. Just give a block of commands a name and call it like any other command. Here, greet takes an argument and says hello, and we call it twice with different names. Then there's chaining. $& runs the next command only if the last succeeded, double pipe only if it failed, and a semicolon just keeps going. That works because every command returns an exit code. 0 means success, anything else means trouble, and you can check the last one with $?. And here's the payoff I promised you back in Lesson 1, a real morning health check in 18 lines. It opens with the date, then walks through 3 quick questions. How's the disk? How's the memory? And is the internet actually up? Notice there's nothing new here. df, grep, free, ping, if then else. These are all commands you already know, just saved in a file and given a name. That's scripting. That's the whole trick. So here's everything from this lesson on a single page. 12 patterns that make up the shape of pretty much any bash script you'll ever write. The shebang at the top, chmod to make it runnable, then the building blocks, variables, arguments, if statements, for and while loops, functions, chaining with $, and exit codes. Screenshot this one. When you're staring at a blank file next week wondering how to start, this is your map. Now let's save you some pain. These are the 5 mistakes that break almost every junior's first script, and each one is basically a 1-character fix. Spaces around the equals sign turn an assignment into a command. Unquoted variables become time bombs the day a path has a space in it. Square brackets versus double square brackets. When in doubt, use the double ones. Forgetting chmod plus x gets you a permission denied, and no shebang means the system has to guess which shell to run. Memorize these 5, and 90% of your early frustration just disappears. All right, theory's done. Time to actually write some code. 3 exercises, all small, all useful. First, greet.sh. A 1-argument hello just to get comfortable with the shebang, chmod, and $1. Second, countlogs.sh. Loop through your log files, print each one, and tally the total. That's your first real loop with a counter. And third, diskwarn.sh. Run df grep for anything over 90% and shout a warning. That last one? That's a piece of the morning system check script I promised you. And that's lesson 10 in the bag. You've got the shebang, you've got variables and arguments, you've got conditionals, loops, and functions. That's a real toolkit. But a script you have to run by hand is only half the story. In lesson 11, we hand it over to cron, and your morning system check starts running itself. Every minute, every Monday, forever. See you there.